everyone, that's Black here, and welcome back to my game corner. Today we're talking about creepypasta. Spooky month is in its full swing, so I figured it's the perfect time to talk about this legendary internet phenomenon. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe. This helps out a lot. It seems to me that only the lazy, or at least the very young internet user, doesn't know about creepypasta. Hey guys, if you're here. The term creepypasta itself dates back to 2006, but it really started to gain popularity as a phenomenon around 2009, with the appearance of Slenderman. Creepypastas are essentially short stories / urban legends about various creatures, monsters, and killers invented by internet users. Most of old creepypastas are so lost on the internet that they are hard to find. And that's okay. Many of the characters' canon stories are not entirely known, but I will try to provide some background information from what I have personally read and heard. But I will warn you that I probably, like you, know only one interpretation of the story, rather than its original version. Why creepypasta? Well, firstly because it's Halloween, and when better to talk about creepypasta than on such a holiday? Secondly, this phenomenon also affects video games and brings with it some rather interesting imagery and interpretations. First things first, I won't talk about .exe games and other such nonsense because it's all self-explanatory. However, I'll probably add them to the bonus segment to briefly cover what constitutes this phenomenon in media culture. Here, I'll mainly talk about games that directly focus on characters from often classic creepypastas. Well, I think that's enough introduction and explanations. Let's begin. Slenderman. Perhaps the most famous creepypasta in the world, the one that essentially started it all. It emerged as a result of the Create Paranormal Images contests on the Something Awful forum. Initially, Slenderman was simply a fictional character whose arsenal consisted of 2 black and white photographs of him stalking a group of people. There was simply no legend surrounding the creature, only that he kidnaps children and that, surprise surprise, he is a disproportionate, clearly non-human creature. The character caused such a sensation that the 2 photographs were subsequently supplemented with police reports and children's drawings. After this, Slenderman became even more popular and people began adding their own details related to the monster. Essentially, Slenderman is the first full-fledged urban legend created on the internet. There is no specific behavior or image of Slenderman, so he can vary from media to media. Similarly, there is no real origin for the Slenderman. Despite this, Slender the 8 Pages was released in 2012. This game essentially gave birth to a subgenre of horror based on the game's core gameplay. The player had to run through the dark forest, avoiding Slenderman and collecting notes containing children's drawings. Each note collected made Slenderman angrier, making him faster and more aggressive. At the time, the game was a real hit, and everyone played it. It was this game that fully promoted Slenderman in the media, and after it, everyone knew this lanky, faceless character. By modern standards, the game looks... well, you can see for yourself how it looks. Slender the 8 Pages doesn't even have any music, really. There is no plot either. The only objective is to collect 8 notes scattered across the map while awaiting Slenderman. You could tell that the faceless man was approaching not by only spotting his figure among the trees, but also by seeing static on the screen, which grew stronger as the creature got closer. Incidentally, here Slenderman didn't yet have tentacles, although later media would begin to feature them. After Slenderman's wild popularity, tons of parodies began to appear from those who either wanted to ride the wave of hype or make a quick buck from all this popularity. Most often, it was the money, of course. The copies came in varying degrees of badness. Some tried to make a parody for mobile devices, others tried to replicate Slenderman's success with parodies featuring other characters. And so the Slendytubbies saga was born. Okay, let's not laugh, okay? On December 12, 2012, the very first version of Slendytubbies was released, and believe it or not, it was just a regular Slenderman parody set in the Teletubbies universe. As far as I know, those big stuffed plushies scared a lot of people back then, and they probably still do. But I really like Teletubbies, so... In any case, what started as a Slenderman parody turned into a huge saga that became just as popular as the original. Slendytubbies is a series that deserves its own video. But for the purposes of the story, I just wanted to mention this game as a kind of follow-up. In the end, Slendytubbies in its original first version was almost indistinguishable from Slender the 8 Pages. Well, what did you expect? Some people, by the way, would be more than a little scared of that. To be fair, Slendytubbies had 3 different darkness modes, at least some ambient sound, to really scare you. And you had to collect not 8, but 10 custard bowls. Random jump scares, dead Teletubbies here and there. Overall, the game did feel better technically than Slender. Surprisingly. Although, in terms of mechanics, it's absolutely the same. Then, of course, history will happen and the horror game about the Teletubbies will gain more fans, which will lead to the emergence of an entire franchise. But that's a completely different story for another video. The Slender saga certainly isn't over on the 8 Pages, of course. After this game came Slender's Woods, Slender's Sanatorium, Slenderman, which was only released for mobile devices, by the way, and it's essentially the 8 Pages but not for PC. Streets of Slender, House of Slender, and a whole ton of other games, mostly released for mobile devices. In 2013, Slender the Arrival came out, which is still talked about. At least I heard about it again recently. Who remembered it at this point? Well, the thing is, 10 years later they decided to remaster the game, but the differences between the games are almost indistinguishable, so we won't dwell on that. This game is actually pretty often prized, and among the Slenderman games, it's the highest quality. Having just looked at it, I actually agree with that opinion. Essentially, the gameplay is no different from the original, but it's much better crafted in terms of suspense and horror. Plus, there is randomness, since, we have some special developers here in the horror community. Naturally, the game isn't canon. There is a lot of community input here, and that's perhaps the most interesting part. Think about it. If it weren't for the community, if it weren't for the ideas people brought to the character, we wouldn't have the Slenderman we know today. By the way, there is an interesting segment in Slender the Arrival. Looking at this thing running after us, don't you have any flashbacks? Doesn't it remind you of anyone? I'll beat you to it. In Slender the Arrival, this is not Jeff the Killer. But he's similar, right? Yes, in this way I smoothly, okay, maybe not so smoothly, led to our second guest today. Jeff the Killer, aka Jeffrey Allen Woods, is the protagonist and the main character in the creepypasta story of the same name about a teenager who became a serial killer. The original story of Jeff has been lost to the ages to the point where it's now impossible for me to find. Jeff's age varies widely from 13 to 17 years old, and the events of the story also jump back and forth. But I personally heard this story. Jeff and his family moved to a new town, where Jeff and his brother had to adjust. The adjustment didn't go as planned, and bleach ended up being poured on Jeff by the bullies, damaging his face, making him unable to smile and all. Slowly going insane, Jeff cut his face to keep smiling forever, and even burned his eyelids to prevent sleep. Now imagine this happening to a 13-year-old boy. And of course, he killed his family too. This is generally an obvious part of a creepypasta story. How could it be otherwise? Jeff, according to the legend, attacks at night, telling the victim to go to sleep. He wields a kitchen knife and basically, that's it. And this teenager, kid, he was once an idol to tons of kids all over the world, yeah. Some adored Jeff, some feared him, but the end result is the same. Practically no one talks about him now. Except for the developer of this game, apparently. I feel sorry for all Jeff's fans. It's not even original, it's literally a parody of Granny, but with Jeff. The game was made by SU Company Games, and released... when was it even released? I couldn't find the exact release date for the first version of the game, which, is a shame. But unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it. Initially, the game looked like a parody of Granny in Roblox, by the design I mean. Just look at that model. The premise is, of course, the same as in Granny. We're in a house and we need to escape without being spotted by the killer. Over time, versions have changed and the game has evolved, adding more advanced lore, apparently based on one of the versions of Jeff's origin. The enemy model itself has been improved. Now he looks lanky, which I really like, considering he's a teenager. The game has even recently added a boss fight, which is also an interesting addition. Besides this Jeff the Killer game, there are, of course, plenty of other mobile games that are incredibly poorly made. Yes, of course, this Granny parody was originally made for mobile devices too, but at least it's playable and interesting. As for that handful of content that's been around since the Creepypasta fandom was popular, well, it exists. Some of you might have even played some of it if you had bad luck. All this is fun, of course, but it was so long ago. We've romped through some dusty archives. Is there anything new and fresh? Yes, there is. On April 29, 2024, a game from developer Taio Dev called Eyeless Jack was released on itch.io. As usual, let's start with the character's origin. I've never been a fan of Eyeless Jack, so not knowing the origin, I went online, where I only found the sense of sad hopelessness, honestly. Initially, Eyeless Jack, similarly to Slenderman, was created as a simple nameless character whose image was posted on DeviantArt back in 2009. That sounds like the birth year of most creepypastas. You can't imagine how many times I saw this year while researching. There was no original story back then, so it either appeared later or was inspired by the image. Basically, all I can say about the character's origin is that Jack is a victim of a cult. As a part of the ritual, his eyes were cut out and filled with black substance, something like resin. The ritual went wrong, and afterward, Jack became a monster who eats other people's kidneys. Internet research only yielded information about creepypasta related to Jack. Most precisely, creepypasta about two brothers who had the misfortune of encountering him. Surprise, surprise, that's exactly what the game is about. And by the way, the game is literally 10 to 15 minutes long, so let's quickly run through the events. We play as Mitch, who arrives to visit his brother Edwin. The brothers haven't seen each other in a long time, so this meeting is very meaningful for them. Tired from journey, our Mitch goes to bed and wakes up around 1 AM to a strange rustling of leaves outside, but he thinks that's just a raccoon or something, so he doesn't pay attention to it. Edwin sends his brother to clear away the leaves, under which Mitch finds blood right next to his bedroom window. The next night, things get worse. In the morning, our protagonist finds a terrible cut on his cheek. So someone must have entered the room. But that's not all the creepy discoveries of the night. It turns out that Mitch's kidney was stolen. Jack literally cut it out and stitched back up. And Mitch didn't feel a thing! The doctor shrugged, and all he can do is accept his condition. The next night, a little after midnight, Jack comes to Mitch again, apparently determined to take the other kidney as well. The protagonist can't think of any better solution than to flash him and then lock him in a room. After that, the protagonist mindlessly runs off into the woods. The chase ends with the poor guy being attacked, but he survives. His brother, unfortunately, is found dead. Returning to the house to retrieve the camera, Mitch stumbles upon a vision. His brother, his chest cut open, and a kidney lying nearby, which Mitch picks up for some reason. And now try to guess what the hell he needs that kidney for. Nothing. Apparently he didn't know what exactly he picked up. I love the logic of that. After that, Mitch goes home and the game ends. Questions, ladies and gentlemen? I have plenty of them too, but nobody will give me answers, so let's make do with what we have. This little horror game isn't all that scary. The only thing I find more or less satisfying is the graphics, and it's only because I'm a sucker for low poly things. I initially expected more from the game, much more. On the other hand, this game inspired me to create this video. It was too short to make a separate review, but I'd love to review creepypasta games in general, since there is a game even about this one. It's still a bit of a shame, actually. The character has potential. The whole ritual thing reminds me of that Fears to Fathom episode. Well, that's just how it is. Overall, I'm surprised. Jack isn't a particularly popular character after all. And overall, interpreting his story into a video game is a pretty neat idea. My favorite moment in this game is when the main character blinds Jack with a flash. He blinds a dude who literally has no eyes, guys. And in the original story, it makes more sense. The guy takes a picture of the creature, then fights it off and runs away. I don't know, I'm speechless. It makes me laugh a little, honestly. Like, it's so stupid. In Resident Evil, they've figured out that a blind character can't be blinded by a flash, but here, a camera flash on a blind guy, what a great idea. Okay, I know I made a really stupid comparison, but it was literally the first thing that came to mind. Plus, the original story itself tells this moment differently. Why couldn't they have made it in the way that it wasn't a plot? This creepypasta is absurd as it is anyways. No, really. Okay. We've already covered the main creepypastas. We can move on to... Huh? What? I didn't cover all of them? What do you mean? Wait, let me check my notes. Oh, right. How could I forget? I deliberately left this character until the very end, not by chance, but because his origins struck me. Meet Ben Drowned, the first creepypasta on our list based on the game. To be more precise, on the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. The thing is, Ben's story isn't just a creepy story on the Creepypasta website, but an entire ARG that was released between 2010 and 2012, with the most recent arc actually released in 2020. So let's... You don't know what an ARG is? Why didn't you ask earlier? We're here to learn and discover new things after all. Let me tell you. An ARG is an alternate reality game. Essentially, the author creates a story and begins giving viewers, that is, players, hints to solve it. These often include videos with hidden codes that lead to different websites, decipher into different words, or sometimes even addresses, where answers to the questions and other clues can be found to solve the overall puzzle. Most often, ARG is based on a creepy and dark story. Now that we've covered the basics, we can continue with Ben's story. In short, Ben is a 12-year-old boy who was lured into the Moon Children cult, under the premise of being like Link and having friends. Ben was then drowned as a part of an essential ritual. His consciousness is now part of a game cartridge. Once he gains access to the internet, Ben will begin wreaking havoc. How will he do it? With the help of the user with the nickname Jeducible. The ARG began publishing on September 7, 2010. Then user Jeducible contacted an online forum asking for help with a game he'd purchase. Incidentally, the author of the ARG is actually Alexander Hall. Thus, the first arc of the ARG quickly became extremely popular. The internet literally exploded with the amazing story, praising the author for his ability to keep viewers on the edge of their seats. The second arc of the ARG began when a user decoded a code on Hall's YouTube account. This gave players access to a website that offered more information about the Doomsday Cult. Remarkably, the website was updated every 3 days. However, Hall suddenly announced a hiatus for the ARG on July 15, 2011. And it wasn't until March 17, 2020, the 20th anniversary of Majora's Mask, that the final third arc of the ARG began publishing. In this arc, all decisions were directly up to the players, and after the death of the previous main character, a new one, a girl named Sarah, took their place. Her goal is to free people digitized in the game. The third arc is essentially the most action-packed for players, but it serves more as an add-on to Ben's original story than a significant part of the plot. So, did I surprise you? Actually, what's funny, Drowned is the second character we're covering today who has his own Wikipedia page, not just Wikifandom or the Creepypasta site. The first, of course, is Slenderman. I don't even know why, but this story genuinely struck me. A quick insight into how I worked on the video. While gathering the basic material, I searched YouTube for videos of Creepypasta games. When I typed something related to Ben, I expected a ton of fan games. In my head, Drowned was just like any other creepypasta, just text somewhere online. But when I saw a ton of weird videos on YouTube, I stopped understanding what was going on. Or rather, at first, I was surprised that there weren't any Ben games. Then I looked at the videos and decided that they were either a regular or modified versions of Majora's Mask. Like, the game is supposedly considered pretty creepy in the Legend of Zelda community, and plus, Ben's origin had to come from somewhere, so maybe it was something from the original game. At some point, I decided I'd have to cross Ben, such a significant character, out of the narrative. But it wasn't until I started looking for the origin that I realized Drowned would be the icing on the cake of this video. There is nothing cooler and more interesting than a full-fledged ARG. Now I can't believe Jeff the Killer is more popular than this! If you want to support me with more than just liking and subscribing, consider checking out the link in the description. There you can donate any sum of money starting from $1. Any donation is appreciated. Thank you in advance. Okay, complaints and sadness aside, some of you might ask, Black, but there are some real video game creepypastas. Aren't you going to review them? Well, let's dive into that too. Let's start with the .exe phenomenon. It's a unique phenomenon within the horror genre, involving cursed games in which one of the main characters, usually the protagonist or the original series, becomes a killer, torturing the rest of the characters. The phenomenon initially began with Sonic.exe, which appeared in the media as creepypasta in August 2011. However, if we look more closely to Sonic.exe, we can see a striking similarity to Luna Game, released on April of the same year. I don't know how much Sonic.exe was inspired by Luna Game, but the fact that the genre technically originated there is undeniable. To learn more about this story, I recommend watching these two old videos of mine. Anyway, back to Sonic. The idea was painfully simple. The game starts with us playing as Tails running through Green Hill. At some point, everything around us starts to get creepy, with dead animal bodies everywhere, and at the end of the journey we meet Sonic, who engages the player in a chase through the burning Green Hill zone. Sonic catches up with Tails and one-shots him with lots of blood and all. The next segment with Knuckles ends more or less the same way, and the third segment with Eggman ends like that too. At the end of the game, Sonic appears on the screen saying something like, "You were next." And it blew up the internet so much that parodies of Sonic.exe and its various interpretations and variations are still being released by various developers. Besides, there is now a .exe game of practically every character. A character from a popular game? Choose any. A cartoon character? Of course, there you have it. A character from a children's animated series? Who said that could stop people? The EXE phenomenon is no longer just about creepypasta. It's a full-fledged internet phenomenon in its own right. Of course, it also spawned a ton of bad creepypastas, but those are just minor details, let's ignore them. You know, something's wrong here. I feel like I'm not alone here. Oh, wait a minute! Oh, right! It's Herobrine! You can feel free to believe in him or dismiss him as a child's tale, but the fact remains, people believed this legend so much that some updates even said he had been removed. So let's start with basics. Where did all this come from? The first screenshot of Herobrine is... no, not this one. This one. Yeah, basically this is the very first screenshot of the creature with white eyes, and it's based on, yeah, disc 13. Minecraft itself is full of creepiness. Even now you can find plenty of creepy moments, from cave sounds to discs. But older guys, like no one else, know what Minecraft was like in its alpha and beta versions. Creepy cave sounds were complemented by harsh textures, completely impenetrable darkness, and fog. The draw distance back then was terrible, and as a result, the game turned from a cute and fun sandbox into a horror game. After the screenshot appeared, a new one appeared on the forum sometime later, and that's where the Herobrine craze began. The screenshot was from an alpha version of Minecraft. It showed an ordinary mountain, trees, and a chicken. It seemed like an ordinary shot, but if you look closely, you could spot Steve's figure with white eyes in the background. This creature is now called Herobrine. Let's be honest, Herobrine never existed in the game. This screenshot is nothing more than fun. But do you think people cared about that before? Of course not! People essentially created their own horror story, believed it, and are still afraid of it. There are currently numerous mods that add Herobrine to the game. Some try to build on the core points of the original creepypasta, while others come up with their own. Either way, it adds a bit of spice to the game. While some feared a fictional creature, others encountered a very real creepy phenomenon. Hear that music in the background? Grown-ups are probably smiling right now. Welcome to Lavender Town. In 1996, Pokemon Red and Blue, Pokemon Red and Green in Japan, were released. But in the cute Pokemon game, things weren't so simple. While wandering through the locations, you could stumble upon a creepy town called Lavender Town. Essentially, this town was no different from other locations in the game. The only thing that made people panic was the music playing in the town. It caused anxiety and fear, and in some even panic. There were legends that this soundtrack caused headaches and even among children and teenagers. Of course, this is just a legend, intended to instill a sense of dread. No one died from a game or the music in it, but the soundtrack itself is truly creepy. But the point is, this is how Lavender Town is supposed to be. Essentially, the musical accompaniment makes sense if you know the town's main gimmick. Lavender Town is home to deceased Pokemon. There's a huge cemetery where owners can say goodbye to their pets, and no matter how sad and painful it may be, that's the town's core meaning. I'm not sure, to be honest, that Lavender Town syndrome can be considered creepypasta, but it is truly an internet phenomenon. And it's also connected to video games, so I think it's important to mention that phenomenon as well. Creepypasta is a huge internet phenomenon that has earned the recognition of millions of people worldwide. Numerous games have referenced creepypastas. Oblivion's Casa has a full-fledged, standalone creepypasta mode. Each character has their own night with its own unique challenges. Slenderman requires you to collect notes, Smile Dog requires you to erase his image to end the nightmare, Jeff the Killer requires you to avoid him, and Eyeless Jack requires you to make photos of him. Each of these challenges is varied and unique. Essentially, Oblivion's Casa is one of the best creepypasta reference in the video game community, and I think it's important to mention it. My favorite challenges are, of course, Jeff's challenge, which is most similar to a typical Five Nights at Freddy's night, and Smile Dog challenge, because the character isn't often mentioned in video games. Wick features a full-blown parody of Slenderman, and despite the fact that it's simply a bit of a humor from the main game's creators, hidden behind the specific action sequence in the main game, it's a funny reference. Especially considering that Wick itself is similar to Slenderman and borrows some elements from the game. In Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion, one of these specimens has a story that references the story of Ben Drowned, the Puppet Master. Even the location and the music are authentic, and everything is a good nod to The Legend of Zelda and Ben himself. I think there were many more references to creepypastas and other media in Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion, but this is the only one I will tell about today. So if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. Even Pixel Gun 3D has a Slenderman reference. More specifically, there is an entire level at the end of which the main boss is Slenderman himself. It's funny, back when I was younger, that level really scared me and I couldn't get past it. Hell, even the Enderman in Minecraft is considered a reference to Slenderman, although no one really knows for sure. So, You can find plenty of creepypasta references in various video games. The internet is well aware of those terrifying stories that once scared the younger generation, and sometimes even the older generation too. And even though we rarely talk about them now, when else can we get more spooky with old tales than on Halloween night? Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something new. That's all I have to say. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button, as well as like and comment. Thank you so much for listening. Have a nice one. Bye.